thank you so much for being here as part of this interview process and also for running for office. It certainly takes a lot of internal strength to take that leap and to go ahead with this whole process. So welcome.
Aloha no, Paul. Mahalo. Thank you for the invite. Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it. And you're right. It's a big step.
So, but what is it that drove you to make that big step? What is it that motivated you, that gives you the fire to really take something that a lot of people would say is a huge task? What is behind that drive for you?
I think with the current situation of the COVID pandemic, it has made me realize and made me see from all the rental cars that are sitting idle at our airports and the surrounding vicinity, the fact that we are, in a way, I've not envisioned seeing Maui this way. I've never fathomed the idea of seeing Maui this way, and I love it. The fact that our oceans and our waters are healing, our aina is healing. So it's that passion that I don't want us to go back to pre-COVID days. I want to see the new norm for Maui, in that we take care of our citizens and our residents locally.
Great, thank you for that. And why don't we just continue going through our interviewers. So Jason, why don't you go on next, and then Daniel, and then we'll have Sylvia.
Aloha, how are you?
Jason, mai ka'i mahalo.
So I like the idea of all those rental cars being shipped off island, or I could use a car. Maybe we can get them cheap now. I understand Hertz is going bankrupt. We have a lot of people in the tourism industry, and although we'd like to serve our local people, we always are wondering about, well, how can we create these jobs and what's going on? Is there anything that specifically triggered you to want to run? Do you have anything that you specifically might want to propose to move in those directions you're talking about?
I would really like to see a cap on those rental cars that you and I see at the airport. I would like to see some kind of, not so much restriction, limitation, but some way to curtail the amount of visitors, tourism that comes into our ainas, into our states, into our lands. Having 10 million visitors a year is way too much. Our infrastructure can't handle it. The amount of rental cars that are sitting on at the airport, we don't need them. And so what I look at is, we have a lot of land. We have a lot of opportunity with regards to agriculture that we can build upon. Why not make that our new economic engine for Maui? Get out of tourism. Look what happened with tourism. Pandemic showed us. We have so many people that are unemployed. Had we had agriculture, I don't think we'd be in this position right now with the amount of unemployed people that we have.
I don't think we could have employed that many people in agriculture, but so you're saying you'd like to move away from tourism. And what would you do, or what might you be able to do in your seat on council? What are you thinking?
Well, with regards to agriculture, I agree. If you're looking at just the planting portion of the agriculture, what I'm looking at is from A to Z. So
Okay.
taking a look at the open land, whatever county has in its inventory, whatever we can grow on, how we can grow, wherever the usage of water comes from, the resources of water. We start with planting a crop that may possibly have multiple uses instead of just one use. Then go into the harvesting part of that crop, going into the manufacturing part of that crop, and then the distribution. So I think with all of that, we could probably provide more jobs than what you're thinking as far as just the planting portion of it. And that's what I was looking at when I say agriculture, is taking it from A to Z, not just planting. I mean, people think, there's the big stores that ship crops in here. You know, they ship the produce in here. So how are you going to take care of that? Well, if they can ship it in, why can't we ship it out? Why can't we use agriculture as one of our exports?
Well, one reason is because we get 90% of our food from off island, 90%. So making this shift is more than just saying we want it. And that's why I'm asking. I'm a little different in that I know, like when I was thinking to run, I have big ideas about what I'd like to do, but the question is, what can we do? I mean, people go into a seat with great intentions. So I'm now that you're there, that might be something for you to work on a specific proposal. So whether you're on council or whether you're just visiting and proposing things, because those kind of things is what I'm hoping that we get from our candidates. There's some kind of sign that went up. I don't know what it said. So it's the benefits of having no glasses on. There was some sign that came up. I still can't see it.
It's okay. I agree with what you're saying.
Respond. Well, they want you to respond. I want you to respond too.
I agree. I do have big intentions. I do have big dreams. I see a better Maui for us. In trying to establish that new Maui is going to take a lot. It's going to need to switch the paradigm, the thinking of everybody. And we need to work collaboratively for a better Maui.
Okay. What other issues are important to you?
Affordable housing is another one.
Any notions of how?
I would like to see for Kahului, since that's the seat that I'm running in, there's a lot of empty buildings in Kahului. Look at Maui Mall. Look at Maui Marketplace. Look at the Kahului Town Center. There's a lot of open buildings. What I would like to see is a central area for Maui County in order to have an area where if you're going to do business with the county, you don't have to go to Kalana o Maui. You don't have to go to One Main Plaza. You don't have to go down to Maui Mall. Centralize it. Then with all the open buildings, turn it into either affordable housing with townhomes, duplexes, just anything that can provide. People don't necessarily want or are looking for the white picket fence. They're just looking for something to cover their heads. Well, under.
I let you answer the question, but we're running out of time here because I keep thinking of it like the Wizard of Oz or someone with magic powers when there's a need for a budget. So I'm looking to see where you're going to steer and change things to do these things. That's why I'm asking my question that way, because I'd like what you'd like too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Okay, Sylvia, and then Daniel.
Aloha, Carol. Thank you for coming today.
Mahalo.
Yeah, thank you so much for running for office. It's like Paul said, it's quite an undertaking. I'm curious, what is your background that brought you here? What kind of experiences have you had in life?
I was a single mom, mother of 7. I have 11 grandchildren. I was in the United States Navy and Naval Reserve, retired 22 years. I've worked for a lot of different entities, from big box to actually what the airlines, and actually what brought me home was working for TSA. Unfortunate, 9/11 occurred. TSA was created. I interviewed, was accepted, and I said, I don't care where, any place in the islands, bring me home. Maui was the first airport that opened, and that is what brought me here. So I'm just glad to be back in the islands and back to understanding and learning and working with community and trying to make a better Maui and islands for all of us.
Thank you, Carol. How do you feel about the use of pesticides on Maui? And are you familiar with some of the votes that were taken to try to regulate the use of pesticides?
I am against using the pesticides, i.e. Roundup in that. I know that there was some kind of a pilot project. I think it's with steam, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't really followed it, but I am totally against using pesticides. And I believe in having buffer zones with any kind of spraying that's done with regards to our schools, our county parks, where our kupuna live. You know, we need to take care of those that are like at risk, high risk. So to stay away from that kinds of stuff, that's, you know, what I would believe in. Thank you for that question.
Thank you. And to support the organics and smaller farmers, how can, what are some other ways we can make land and water and resources more available to small farmers?
Possibly maybe working on a co-op, like what's going on now during the pandemic, is gathering different farmers together and helping them to get their crops out into the public. A lot of the farmers are having a hard time getting their crops out. Most of the time it's their crops are growing and they don't have contacts on who to, you know, distribute to, how can they get it out? There's a lot of people that are hungry, that need food. Well, how do you get it out to them? So do some kind of a farmer co-op, you know, that helps everybody, works together and helps everybody to get their crops out.
Thank you for that. And do you have any ideas about the homelessness situation and affordable housing?
Again, with what I said about affordable housing, there's a lot of empty buildings that are sitting all over Kahului. I would like to see maybe possibly taking some of those empty buildings, maybe converting it or creating another homeless shelter. Possibly, you know, being able to at least provide some place for our homeless to sleep and or shower during the day. I live pretty close to Miko and that area, and I see a lot of homeless on Kamehameha and Kaulavahine. So I would like to see them in possibly some of the empty buildings we have, or maybe do something like what they're doing up at Waiale with the that project up there. You know, take some of the open land that we have that maybe can't be used for agriculture and utilize that for some kind of a tiny home project for the homeless, whatever we can do, because we need to help them also.
Thank you. And with that, I'll pass you along to the next questioner.
Aloha, Carol.
Hello,
Daniel
hello.
Smith here. So thank you for coming on with us. It's a pleasure to be talking with you and all the rest of the candidates that have showed up. So
My pleasure also.
it's been interesting to hear your reflections. So I'm going to start with this one question, and then we'll go on to others. So as a public representative, it is a duty to face the truth and to act righteously. These islands reflect the lowest voter turnout in the United States. On May 15th, 2019, Dr. David Keanu Sai gave a presentation to the Maui County Council, evidencing the illegal overthrow of Queen Liliuokalani in 1893 and showing clear violation of domestic and international law with the ongoing illegal United States military occupation of the Kingdom of the Hawaiian Islands. As a candidate for public representation, how do you rectify handling the truth of Dr. Sai's presentation, as well as the works of the Ko Hawaii Pai'aina office in Hilo, Ke'eamoku Kapu, Henry Noah, Amelia Gora, Bumpy Kanahele, Leon Su, Dr. Desaias, Madame Ruth Bolame, etc.? How do you rectify the compliance of the law and restoration of occupied lands?
Thank you for that question. In answering that, I would say I totally agree with Dr. Keanu Sai. With regards to the acquisition of our islands into the United States, we were not legally annexed in. Therefore, I am a strong advocate of the Ku'e petition continues, and it's the education and awareness that needs to be made to everybody on how the United States acquired the islands. Through my history and what I learned in school, Pearl Harbor Jukahanamoku, Danho, statehood. That's it. So everything else that I learned so far is from coming home and from learning about the Ku'e petition and from learning about the illegal overthrow of our queen. Mahalo for that.
Okay, mahalo. I'm going to pass on to the next questioner. Thank you.
Carol, I have a question about our resources. The first one really has to do with the lifeblood of the island, our water resources. Would you support the county asserting eminent domain over the EMI system in order to administer the public trust water resource for food security necessary for our community?
Eminent domain would mean the government would take it over, which would mean the county would take it over. And seriously, I don't think the county can. I don't think they have the resources. I don't think they have the expertise. And I don't even think they have the time to actually take on a huge project as that. I would be open to some kind of co-op, some kind of public-private partnership, possibly what Kauai is doing with regards to electric. Maybe we can look into that, with regards to water. Why can't we do something like that with water? Water rights are property rights, and there's a lot of things I think that I'm not too qualified to report on. But for now, I would say I would like to see some kind of public-private partnership or some kind of co-op. Not necessarily within the total control of the county, but I'm open to whatever.
Thank you for that. One of the things that your opponent, Kashikama, has voted for in the past has to do with the injection wells and the support for that type of legal exercise that cost our community about $4.5 million. What would you have done differently? And what are your perspectives right now on the injection wells that we presently have throughout our different types of sewage septic systems?
Injection wells is not really one of my subjects that I'm really up to par on, but I will say that it is something that shouldn't be done because the water is going into, although the transmission lines can be short of the shore, it's still eventually going to be seeping into our shoreline and eventually into our oceans. So I don't understand why it was sent to the Supreme Court. It should have actually been handled locally. Unfortunately, County Council did not agree with that. But for the injection wells, I look for us to find another alternative.
Great. Thank you. And certainly there are alternatives that we could pursue. But anyway, that's just one aspect of again, what one of your opponents has actually voted for. So we just, along that same line, she voted for the Wailuku Civic Center. Is that something that you would also support?
Wailuku is very special. It was the seat of government during our kingdom era. It is also the home of one of our eli'i, one of my kupuna, one of my ancestors, that being Kahekili. So to try and modernize it and take it into the 21st century, that's the only place actually besides Hana that Maui has that's old time Maui. We need to keep that and preserve that little part of history that we have. And I don't believe that the Civic Center belongs there. I also don't believe that the hotel belongs there. I know, some people do, some people don't, but for me, I honestly do not believe that the Civic Center or the hotel belongs there. We need to preserve it.
Great. Thank you for that response. Sylvia, you want to take the next question?
Thank you, Carol. How do you feel about corporate donations from off the island to support candidates on Maui? And how do you plan to finance your campaign?
I am running on a grassroots campaign. I don't believe in big box corporations. I don't believe in big box donations. I don't believe in entities that have an agenda. My agenda is my agenda. And if you're trying to donate to me to change my agenda to fit yours, I'm sorry, that's not who I am. I want to fight for affordable housing for our citizens. I want to fight for lower tourism. I want to fight for more jobs. And I don't want to be beholden to anybody just because they provided me some monies to make a banner or to make a flyer or what have you.
Thank you for that. Is there anyone in public office now or on the council that you really admire and are looking forward to working with?
Currently on council, yes. I would be looking forward to working with Shane. I would be looking forward to working with Tamara and Keani. My idol actually is previous council, and that's Michelle Anderson. She, to me, was an advocate for all the citizens of Maui Nei. She did absolute everything that she could for the betterment of Maui. She knew what it was she wanted to do. She did the research for it, and she was prepared. When it came time to be in a meeting, she was there, she was ready to go. And I want to emanate her and be ready with all my research in whatever topic comes before county council. I want to be prepared for all of it.
Thank you. What will be your top priorities?
Finding jobs for our people once we come out of this COVID, looking for affordable housing, how we can provide that immediately, again, through the open buildings that we have. More so looking for community input and being able to collaborate with experts with that community input. I can't say I have all the answers, but I'm willing to sit down and talk to people and listen to what the community thinks we need. I can't just go into this and say, I'm going to do this, this, and this. It might just be my agenda, but I want you to provide me some kind of input for that agenda so we can all work together.
Thank you for that. And were there any particular issues that the council has been voting on that you followed closely, that really sparked your interest, and that you would have wanted to vote differently?
The injection well? As far as voting differently, yes. County council has done a lot, and I think they've come a long way from where they were years ago, but I can't really think of anything off the top of my head now, but most definitely is injection well.
Thank you for that. I'll pass you along to the next questioner.
Thank you.
Jason, why don't you go next, and then we'll have Daniel.
Okay. My questions are different than these guys. You know, I have a different thing. You know, it's like, I know you're not prepared going in, but what do you bring to the council seat? What areas of leadership do you feel you can add to a council environment? What is in other words, you're running against somebody, but you're going with something that you're going to passionately do there. What specifically do you have thoughts to do? What's driving you into the council?
What's driving me?
Meaning we all have all these issues that we agree on. I'm
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
they want me to let you answer, but I'm
no.
looking to have you give us a feeling for what you want to do. We all have positions on stuff, but if you have anything you'd like to do, that's what I'm looking for.
What's driving me is the protection of our resources, our cultural resources, our historical resources, and our natural resources. That's what's driving me, is the protection of that. What I bring to county council, what I believe is my experience within the Navy, the discipline that I have had, the respect for the chain of command that I have had, the fact that I'm a perfectionist, sometimes to a fault, that my friends say. I'm very detail oriented, and I will do research when it comes to trying to make a decision on any kind of subject, issue, topic, whatever it may be. I will do the research, and I will talk to people that have had experience in that, or have any kind of knowledge about it, or any kind of ideas about it. And so that's what I feel I would bring to the council.
And you mentioned you have, I didn't get the number, 7 kids? 7 kids? Is that right? 8?
Yes. 7 children and 11
Boy.
grandchildren.
That's a busy schedule. Do you have a small bank?
No, actually, they have the bank. But it's the only thing I can add to that is my children are not here, except for one. My grandchildren are not here. My children, some of them were raised in the States. I've always wanted to come home. When I came back to the islands, I had my 3 youngest. So my 3 youngest were somewhat raised here, with my youngest having the most years being raised in the islands. So all my kids, scratch that, 6 of my 7 kids are in the States. They also too followed my lead and joined the military. So they have their own lives and their own families wherever the US government is sending them. So I have my youngest that is home with me.
I pictured you as 30 years old, so I couldn't figure out how you could have all those kids. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure. I'm going to pass it to whoever wants to ask a substantive question, because I'm generally looking at the kind of person that's going in and what's motivating them to do something when they're
Right.
there.
Thank you, Jason. And then why don't we go to Daniel next? Next question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for those character questions there, Jason. I feel it's really important as well that we get a sense of like who the candidate is in their hearts altogether. So Carol, my question, I want to bring it back to the beginning where you were talking about your drive for the INA and its healing. Not the pre-pandemic, but looking forward to something new. You know, you said, okay, obviously the tourism is falling through. So in the new norm, going back to the land, supporting agriculture, like what do you see might be the new norm, and how can you support that in the county council?
I would like to see, again, with agriculture, us developing a crop that goes from A to Z. Again, something that provides multiple uses, not just one, but multiple uses, and that we're able to plant it, harvest it, even manufacture it here on island, so that we don't have to pay so much of the import cost of everything that's brought into the islands. We need to really cut that down. And in order to cut that down, I think some of those agricultural products might be able to help us with that.
So with these, you know, we're looking at something immediate, as in a return to the economy, a reestablishment of that economics. So what do you see could be something immediately implemented amongst all of this that could be helpful?
Possibly funding programs that would assist families with the housing, with the high cost of utilities, providing maybe school supplies, school lunches for those that have school-age children, providing assistance to those who may want to or need to change their job occupations. Maybe if they're realizing, you know, that tourism may not come back as quickly as we're wanting it to, that in order to put food on the table, they're going to need to change the paradigm of thinking and what other kinds of fields can they go into. So looking for programs that would assist them in doing that, providing the financial support, whatever could be done.
Okay, so it sounds to me like you have a little bit of experience with involvement in the county council. Can you share with us your attention or your civic engagement?
Well, I think they've seen me a few times testifying on different issues. I've also been before the Planning Commission, the Urban Board. I've been before them also. My passion currently is the protection of iwi kupuna. Therefore, I am a member of Malamaka Kanilua, and we currently are in 3 different cases as far as the protection of our iwi kupuna. Maui Lani, Phase 6, the Waiko Light Industrial, and the Grand Wailea Resort remodeling and expansion. So those 3 topics, or those 3 issues, have really put me in front of some of these county departments and boards to advocate on what I believe in.
That is a very important topic as far as protecting these sacred areas, as I'm aware that there is that there has been a number of developments that have bypassed some of the EISs and some of the land preservation when it comes to these sacred sites. So when it comes to those areas that you've been involved with, which are actually very particular areas, what is something that you have seen perhaps an issue of that you could bring to the table with a bit more clarity? Like if you were to go through that process and say, hey, if I were to improve upon that, what would you do in office that might be different to assist in all this?
The most important thing as far as county goes is we need to clarify some of the ordinances regarding grading and grubbing and protection. It needs to be more specific. The ordinance are too wide. They're too far out there. It's not specific as to who cares for this or who gets called, or the state level. I can't really do too much about the state level because that's SHPD, that's DLNR, the State Historic Preservation Department. I can't do anything about them. We can always make suggestions, for them with regards to how we think protection should be done, the wording of supposedly the AIS that they're trying to submit, the SMA permits that are being requested. The process itself is time consuming, but there's no specificness to it. Sorry. Needs to be more refined as far as the verbiage goes.
Okay, perfect. Mahalo, and I'm going to pass it to the next interviewer. Thank you, Carol.
Great. Carol, I have a question that is of what's happening with this whole COVID-19. And what are your thoughts about the governor's assertion towards mandatory vaccines for children and adults?
I don't agree with a mandatory. People have their own reasons why they should or should not take any kind of vaccine. And being that this is supposedly a democratic type of governing system, they should be able to make their own decisions, especially when it comes to religion. Some religions don't allow it. Some people just don't want to do it. So I myself don't like my mom taking the flu vaccine. With her advanced age and her current health conditions, I'm afraid that when they give her the shot, they're going to be injecting her with the vaccine, with the virus, and she may not be able to build the antibodies necessary to fight it. So that's my reason for not allowing my mother to get the flu shot. And so other people may feel that way, and they should have their own opinion. They should be able to do what they feel is right for themselves and or their family.
Great. Thank you for that. One thing that we've noticed, certainly as the traffic on the roads has gone way, way down, it seems like there's a lot of number of police cars that are here on island. It's even more prominent now that we have not really hardly any tourists here. So would you be in favor of adjusting the police force to reflect then it's the population that we're dealing with here and the lessening of tourism?
I don't want to cut back on our police force just because we don't have the amount of people here. In the event the amount of police officers that are needed to handle any type of situation goes above what we currently have, it would be hard to try and bring oodles of people online in a short period of time. So although you may think that we have an overabundance of MPD now, and I think it's because they're not chasing tourists that are going places where they shouldn't be going. They're not dealing with, having to go with our other first responders, i.e. the firemen, for rescue operations. So you'll see a lot more of them, or I've seen a lot more of them in the last couple of months on the road, just regulating actually speed. So I've seen a lot of them do that, but no, I would not support cutting back on our resources for our first responders.
Thank you for that, Carol. And we have one more question. Sylvia, do you want to take the last questions that we have then for Carol? And then we'll finish up and we have our next interview waiting.
Thank you, Carol. Is there anything else you would like to share with us today? We have, such a long list of issues that we've been asking to all of our candidates, and to me, they're a bit of a blur at the moment. So yeah, it's been long interviews. Yeah, is there any last thing you would like to share with us that is important to you?
I know one of the questions that you had asked previous candidates was about district voting, and I would not want to do district voting. And the reason being is I live on Maui and I feel I should have a say-so about Maui. Although I live in Kahului, Kahului is in Maui, if that makes sense. So all of us that live here should have a say-so in what happens here. So I know that wasn't one of the questions that you guys have brought up with me, but I know it's a question that you've brought up with other candidates. And so I just wanted to answer that.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
And Carol, if you could just finish up, we'd like to hear if people want to find out more information about you, your different positions that you have, your platform, how they can donate funds if they would like to support you financially, or get involved and just help with their time and volunteer. How can they get in touch with you?
Currently, I'm working on a website, so I don't have that information now. I do have an email. It is HYN as in Nancy, N as in Mary, AHI, which is Hawaiian Mahi Mahi being a dolphin, which is my favorite animal. Hawaiian is a shortcut, HYN. HawaiianMahi@yahoo.com. I do have a PayPal account. It's Vote for Carolee Kamekona. If anybody is willing and wanting to donate, I appreciate any donations. And does that answer it all?
Yes, it does. I think you covered it, Carol. And again, thank you for running for this very important seat. You know, we've had interviews then with Deb Ki'iwi, and we also had a discussion about Tasha Kama. It's a very important seat. Certainly, when we look at what's happening in the county council, it's very important that we make very informed decisions and that the entire county can participate then in this voting process.